And if you have gotten yours, that means you're on the right, this beautiful country, Nigeria. Welcome to this program from the Dailies, coming to you live from Equatorial in this beautiful country, Nigeria. And this announcing a turn in postponing the planned subsidy removal, that even though they were comparison from between Nigeria and yesterday and this week, the federal government is taking. Facebook is at Equa Television. And
okay, to the Nation newspaper, 5 of the Nation newspaper, murder of school burned, suspect arraigned, condemned coup in Burkina Faso, petrol subsidy stays. The writer says, UB and 6 lawyers face sanctions over conflicting court April for UTMU. You can find the story on page 3.
The story is on the Daily Trust. The big story here says FG backtracks, retain petrol is as permanent solution, experts tell government, shelf Nigeria. And more stories we have about the death of Anifa. I will sign death warrant coming from Aisha Buhari, the first lady. Kanu government revokes it on fire. Yes, so we have these stories that are coming from Kanu. Also a story about the Abiola. It has been making rounds since last week on our paper. Tomato jacked up December's inflation figures, and also can be found on page 8 of Daily Trust paper. And like
at Hanifa, Aisha Buhari backs calls for public execution of alleged killer, request to issue arrest warrant against fleeing ex-petroleum minister. 2023, Atiku will only do Simon's planned fuel subsidy removal till further notice. APC command in Ogun. Police raise alarm over fake internet fraud and direct entry registration. Those are all the news stories.
TUC retains fuel subsidy, and this story can be found on page 2 and to PIA 2022 budget to accommodate subsidy 18.5% to 35.73 trillion naira. May raise interest rates in H2 22, page 25 2 of New Telegram. Alleged money laundering, court orders meant to absent to death sentence when passed. Wish, and this is coming. This can be found on page 31 of New Telegram. Leased aircraft lull in activities forced down fade April 20 to 30. And the last story here says study. Walking slow, living healthy, wellness. You can read that story on page 8. It talks Super Eagles goalkeeper Maduka Okoye, and he's getting in the AFCON. And when he started, the day that was when Nigerians lost. They are putting all the blames on him. What started as joking about something should stop that. Even the jokes, you to the next paper.
Moving on to Nigerian News Direct News Street to issue C of O to NAF. Oshia says fuel subsidy removal will heighten inflation. This is coming from his decision. It portends grave political cost to government ruling subsidy removal. This is coming from Fawipe. You can 2023 despite age. This is coming 2021. This is coming from NITDA. Story here says NAFDAC bans production of alcohol in sachet.
But the big story here says federal government buckles, says no federal government will amend budget to provide for subsidy removal from LC insists on Thursday's nationwide protests, petitions government. And the last rider here, APC welcomes suspension of petrol subsidies. I won't hesitate to sign death sentence, and this is coming from Lu. You can find the story on page 10 of the Vanguard newspaper. And on NUR 11 of Vanguard newspaper, APC. Factors that will shape success. Inflation, money supply rises 16.5% to 43.9 trillion paper. And more stories here says 2023 Ibori's visit to Tom Polo refunds 4,000 candidates with incomplete registration. Alleged misconduct. NBA files petition against SAN 200 milliliter, and that can be found on page 22.
Leadership newspaper. Hanifa Kano revoked in country. Court issues arrest warrant on Dizani. I take that again. Fuel subsidy. Federal government state labor insists on protests. The federal government 7. Dokpesi tells Southeast. You can find the story on page 7. And the last story here says Gen calls sulfur investment.
We have a lot more papers to analyze and read out the headlines for you, but we would like to hear a permanent voters card, because that is important to see the changes you want to make and take it live on the show. And remember also that we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, where you can avoid interference between you and us here in the studio. So let's take a break.
I am Lengs. I have collected my PVC. I'm ready to vote and collect your PVC. Your vote is your right. So go get yours now.
Nan domin in gayyace ku kuma in sanar da ku cewa ya kamata ka karba domin ita ce za ta baka yanci na kake so, wadda kwa zai iya zaman shugabanka ka yarda shi yaudare ka. Kada ka yadda ka tsaye da yancinka, kada ka jefa kuriya, ka yi zaɓe cikin hankalinka. In ka jefa kuriyanka ka bar wuri.
Welcome back, and still Evangelical Church winning all. So for those that have been wondering what ECWA displayed on your screen right now, and just in case you stay off Nigerializing on the show today, we've talked about the fuel subsidy removal, which we would like to continue today. And still with me in the studio is Lois Turaki. What is your take? What is your reaction on the suspension of the fuel subsidy removal? What are the implications? What does that mean to Nigeria? And this is a big story on Daily Focus, and more stories here. Bogoro crisis. Bauchi. John, if you can hear us, you are live on our station. Hello, Mr. John. Schools, and this can be found on page 6 of Daily Focus and the Daily Focus paper today. Court issues arrest warrants dollars in aid from World Bank. AFDB says Femi Adebayo's gift staff a new car. And on, go ahead with your contribution. The control rooms should see what the problem is and fix it, and if it's from impute. More stories on Super Eagles. Igbo, we to me Super Eagles crash.
Federal government convert 200,000 vehicles planned tradition. Federal government local currency debt to hit 400 over breach of customers' data privacy. You can find the story on men suspend subsidy removal. MBA warns observe deceit in new twist, says Labour.
Okay, Lois, we'll have to hold on for that and pick a call from Mr. John. Please, Lois, go ahead.
Begs unions. A picture story here of G23. And coalition of civil society groups supports Southern Prime's PDP APC Secretariat demands Southern President sells Atiku for 2023 presidency. Man jailed for 6 million naira mistakenly paid to his account. Villagers flee as Ogun monarch and 3 others burned. Businessman, filling station attendant shot dead as gunman breaches airport security, seizes gates forcefully. If if you're interested in
us on Facebook and on YouTube, and we really need you to comment, because it is important for you to, that means you are okay with them. What is the fuel subsidy removal? Your reaction, what does that mean to you? What is the way forward? What should be the way forward? Our numbers are right on the screen. You can call us. Stay away from text. To Labour shelves plan to end fuel subsidy from July, and one appeals to NLC TUC to cancel protests. Postponement send wrong sin inflation cause undue hardship. Labour petition states governors today. More stories here. Marginal fields. NUPRC on this day paper today. LCCI hail CBN's whereabouts of president unknown. You can read that story on page 8 of the 21. And more stories here. Ganduje Hausa newspaper. Moving on, we would like to take the next paper, Lois.
It says proposed removal problematic. There is need to do away with subsidy. CSOs write APC, PDP, others. APC factions must find common ground. Atiku presidency will pave way for South in 2027. And this is told on Dogara. You can find the story on page 2. And the last story here says 2023, Indigbo rejects newspaper.
All right, on Daily Independent, Electoral Act Amendment if it comes to power in 2023, and this is coming from Bode George Agency to South. And more stories here. 2023 President, page 6, canvasses Atiku presidency, says he will serve. And on Hanifa's killings, Kanduji revokes line at Lagos Airport, and it can be found on page 7 of Daily. In court orders arrest of ex-petroleum minister Diziana Allison. And on Burkina Faso, military says it has seized power. And the international news decks by 6. So I think I've taken that. And the big story here says federal government backpedals, suspend health plan protest, says plan unnecessary. These are all the stories on Daily Independent. And there are a lot of Nigerians that don't even understand that. They don't even know what first school parties, even from individuals, saying, even from Abdusalami, say, I just want to explain further. It's more like in case of petrol can be reduced for masses to get at an affordable price. Again, saying that is untimely, and Nigerians are not ready for that.
I remember the first time that fuel subsidy was a difficult moment for Nigerians, and then for the last that was PDP. It was removed again. In seeing how this has taken a different shape, effect on the removal of fuel subsidy, that some countries are going for subsidy completely, and then I just feel right now it's just, initially they said they were going to remove fuel subsidy, now they are not removing a bad it's are just by the corner. It's 2023, and now people are coming with one thing or the other, and then I just see this.
I think it was called Occupy Nigeria, where everyone came out to protest. Fuel subsidy will be removed in June. That was the deadline, and now we're saying, okay, Buhari, do not instruct for that to happen. So many of this controversy, suspension of the removal of the fuel subsidy yesterday, is untimely. We are not ready for the removal of 65. A lot of other people can't even afford it. They are struggling with a lot of other hikes, electricity tariff, water bill, so many of that. So I don't think if our system, if the government, then it can be removed because the system is functioning. It can be removed because your minimum subsidy, I think, is untimely. Just like I said, there are some people that have compared Nigeria to other countries where buying fuel at that price, is not a problem at all. So I think if we want to be like other countries, better, people will find it at least comforting. People will find it a bit soft, to even. So please, if you are watching, what is your own take on the fuel subsidy removal, and what are the negative or positive? Is displayed on the screen where you can call, and we are live on Facebook, on your YouTube, where you can
subsidy removal. with lead report sources Timothy Silva have said the federal government and 6 other lawyers guilty for influencing June where 5-year-old was murdered. This is coming from Ganduje. Burkina Faso soldiers announced oil price falls and strong dollar. Newspaper winning Ekiti first step to for fence mending. You can find the story on page 15 of
few stories here I would like to take. The big story here says why these 5 small economies will outpay. FG suspends planned petrol subsidy removal. You can find that story on the Business Day newspaper. You can find that story on page 2 of the business.
Investment downtown overload rejection by discos. The big story here is reversal will send wrong signals to prospective downstream oil investors. It is and it's coming from Augusto. You can find the story if you're interested in it. Memorandum of Understanding on Fair Competition in Industry.
Here we have stories, so many stories, and the big story here is about the Buhari not in support of policy, says Minister of State for Petroleum. And if you have interest in behind Poro Miri, and this can be found on page 4 of the draft. Court issues warrant of arrest on designer Allison. He orders security agents, page 4 of Daily Sun, who are seeking admission and about to write a JAM examination. This is more like a timetable and billion naira on COVID-19 in 1 year, page 24 of Daily Sun. Come from as terrorists blow up Catholic Church in Taraba State, page 29 of protesters raise school. Girl buried as Kano government withdraws certificate.
I just want to say, be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more.
That's a beautiful quote from Oprah. And it has been from the Dailies here live. Always grateful for you watching, keeping in touch with what we do here in Ekwa Television and every of January. And we'll be expecting a lot of you to come for the product to get your copy. We have Litafi Wakoki, that's a book of hymns, and so miss here in the Ekwa headquarters to get your own copy. And we'll be glad to say not voting is not a protest, it is a surrender. National hero. And the last one here says, this is very important, every Nigeria has a duty pressed in our vote. Don't surrender. Be certain to vote in the